Hot seat today, we've got Fuze, which has raised $12.2 million in a Series A round led by Galaxy and UAE telecom giant E. And founded just 2 years ago, Fuze has already processed over $2 billion in digital assets and is now eyeing India for its next phase of growth. With new stablecoin and payments infrastructures in play, the startup wants to power banks and fintechs with regulated crypto solutions. Joining us now to break it all down is Arpit Mehta, the co-founder of Fuze. Arpit, thank you so much for taking time out and being here with us on Startup Street, and also congratulations on raising this Series A round. What sort of gap in the financial infrastructure landscape is Fuze specifically solving for? And how do you sort of differentiate from, existing digital asset providers?
Yeah. So if you think about the overall financial services space, right, largely you can think of wealth trading, you can think of payment, cross-border or domestic, you can think of lending, you can think of insurance, right? Most of these techs have not been rebuilt over the last several decades. Right? What we are building is the infrastructure layer for some of these verticals, powered by crypto and by association blockchain. Right? We always sit on the infrastructure layer. We are very B2B. So we work with large banks, fintechs, enterprises to help them launch different crypto products. Right? Some of the large banks here in Middle East work with us, right? Like where we are. So we are fully regulated from a crypto perspective and from a payments perspective in several markets. So we sit on the infrastructure layer, and then we power these large enterprises and help them innovate and launch different crypto products very fast, right? So we work with banks to help them launch crypto trading products. We work with payment companies and remittance companies to help them build blockchain-powered payment solutions, right? And so on.
Right, absolutely. And, with over $2 billion in digital asset volume already processed, how are businesses and institutions actually using your infrastructure today, and where do you see the fastest adoption?
Yeah, so I think a lot of adoption over the last 1 year has been on the payment side, where within crypto, stablecoin has found perfect market fit. Right? And then especially on the cross-border side, where across the world, entities and consumers face challenge on moving money cross-border. Right? We have built a complete infrastructure for these stablecoin payments, be it wallet as a service, liquidity as a service, on-ramping, off-ramping in multiple corridors, regulatory compliance as a service, because that's a huge heavyweight for any institution who is trying to build a fully regulatory conservative solution in this market. Right? So Fuze provide that full stack. And then especially in the stablecoin payment segment, we have found a huge product market fit across multiple markets.
Right. And, we're going to delve into that a little bit further. But before we go there, you've raised this to $12.2 million. How do you plan to use the funds?
Yeah. So this whole space is very new overall as an industry, right? And in a lot of products that we are building, we are category first or the market first, right? Aim is to go deeper into launching some of these products, right? Second, growth across multiple markets, and which also means licensing across multiple markets, right? Which requires a significant regulatory capital investment.
Right, absolutely. And, you're now eyeing India, right? And how are you sort of approaching the regulatory engagement here? And what would a green light from the regulators mean for your India playbook at this point?
Yeah. So India definitely is a huge market, right? But also being Indian founders, we understand Indian market very well. Right? At the same time, we are regulatory very conservative. So at this point, we have been continuously engaging with the regulators, with the authorities to figure out the overall play. We believe that the way regulators are looking at crypto versus how regulators look at stable coins and payments, these two are very different solutions or the regulatory framework that would be required for these products. We are waiting for the overall stablecoin and the payment infrastructure, payment regulations to be clear. That's where we will go deep in the Indian market.
Exactly. You actually preempted my next question. I was going to ask you about this. You've just launched a suite of stablecoin infrastructure products. What role do you see stablecoins playing in mainstream finance, especially in the Indian and, the MENA markets?
So it's a very interesting question, because India market or a bunch of other markets, I would actually comment on the larger markets like where we operate, mostly emerging markets where there is a currency devaluation against dollar. I think especially dollar stable coins like USDT, USDC have really picked up acceptance, right? It is both time and cost efficient. So we see last year, just to give you a number, right? Like the overall value transfer on stablecoin was $3 trillion. Right? That's roughly about 15 to 18% of Visa plus MasterCard combined. Right? So from a market perspective, stablecoin have already picked up a lot of transactions or a lot of growth. And most of these transactions are in emerging markets, right? Where consumers and entities generally face a lot of issues moving around dollars. Right? Like that's where the major acceptance has been.
Right. And if you could quickly tell us, we're running out of time. You did mention payments and you said that's where you're seeing most amount of traction, but it is also a new vertical for Fuze, right? So how does your infrastructure power payments innovation, and could we see you, partnering with existing fintechs or even traditional banks?
Yes, we do. So we already work with a lot of banks and a lot of payment providers across the world. Right? As I said, we always sit on the infrastructure layer, right? So we work with global payment providers, global banks, and power their payment solutions for cross-border use case and soon in some markets for the domestic use case.
Right. And what does your current revenue model look like? How has monetization evolved with the launch of all your new offerings like the stablecoin infrastructure and payments? If you could sort of take us through where you hope to end this year, what you're making now?
Sure. Yeah. So, well, numbers are not public, but our business model is charging on per transaction majorly, right? That's where we make money. We are always in the flow of funds if the regulated entity or regulated infrastructure provided on the back end. Right? We aim to 3x the revenue that we had last year. I think we'll surpass that by a margin.
All right. So that's the plan going forward. All right, Arpit, thank you so much for taking time out and being here with us on Startup Street.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.